The day showed no signs of being a disaster when I woke up. The alarm went off at 5 and my wife Diane reached for me and pulled me back down as I started to get out of bed. 25 years and the woman could still turn me into a quivering wreck. She got up to fix the coffee while I took my shower, and then I fixed this breakfast while she showered. We discussed what our days were likely to be like as we ate, and then she asked, "Meatloaf and baked potatoes okay for dinner tonight?" "Sounds great. I'll stop at the bakery and pick up a loaf of fresh French bread and maybe a pecan pie." "Oh, pecan pie. Out to spoil me, are you? Can't think of anyone I'd rather spoil." We kissed and walked hand in hand into the garage, kissed once more, and then we both headed off to work. The drive-in was uneventful, and so was the first half of the morning. Around 11, Harry, my boss, called me into his office. "We have a situation in St. Louis. Baker caught Smithers with his wife, and now Baker is in jail and Smithers is in the hospital. There is no one there to run the office. I hate to do this to you on such short notice, but you have to catch the 2:20 flight, get to St. Louis, and take charge of the office. I don't know how long you will be there. I guess it will depend on just how bad Baker screwed up Smithers. If it is too bad, he might not get out of jail for a while, and Smithers might not get out of the hospital anytime soon. Even if they both get out soon, I don't see how they will be able to work together. I'll have to think long and hard about it, but I can't see any way other than to let one of them go. Which one, I don't know. I'll need a lot more information before I can make that decision. Seems cut and dried to me. Smithers screwed with Baker's wife. Smithers should have expected Baker to get pissed if he ever found out. I don't know for a fact that Baker caught Smithers with his wife or that Smithers is even guilty. All I've got is what the secretary told me when she called. Maybe you can find out more from me when you get there. I called Diane to let her know what was going on, but her secretary told me that she was in a meeting. I told her I'd call back, and then I headed home to pack a bag. Diane's car was in the driveway when I got home, and I wondered what was up with that. She was supposed to be in a meeting. When I walked into the living room, I saw that she was indeed in a meeting, but it wasn't the kind of meeting I had envisioned when her secretary told me she was in one. There was a trail of clothing on the floor leading from the couch to the stairway, and some of those clothes were men's clothes. At the foot of the steps, there was a pair of men's trousers, and I picked them up and found a wallet in one of the back pockets. I took it out, opened it up, and read the name Stanton North on the driver's license. I put the wallet in my pocket and then looked around the room and saw a suit coat over the back of the easy chair. It yielded a checkbook, and I put that in my pocket too. I walked up the stairs, and as I got close to the top of the steps, I began hearing what was coming from the bedroom. "Do me? Do me hard? Like it, do you? Oh God, yes. You feel so good in me. Do me, baby, do me. I would never have believed you could be such a hot little 304. Like my meat. Love your meat. Just keep giving it to me." I walked into the room and saw a man pounding into Diane, and she had her legs wrapped around him and her hands on his back, pulling him to her. She was moaning as I walked past on my way to the closet. I was almost to the closet door before Stanton North saw me, and he stopped in mid-stroke and said, "Oh shit." Diane had her eyes closed as he drilled her, and when he stopped, they popped open and she cried, "Don't stop. Damn it, don't stop." I'm almost TH, and then she saw me and cried no. Oh God, no, and started trying to get out from under North. "Don't stop on my account," I said as I entered the closet. "I just need to pack a bag, and then I'll get out of here and leave you two lovebirds alone." I had my back to them as I took socks and underwear out of the dresser drawer and put them in the suitcase, but I could hear them behind me. Diane was saying, "Get off me, damn it," while North was saying, "Christ, what a mess." When I turned to go back into the closet for a garment bag, I saw North heading out the bedroom door and Diane scrambling to find something to cover herself with. As she scrambled, she was saying things like, "What are you doing, Frank? Why are you packing?" and uttering nonsense like, "It isn't what you think, Frank, and I can explain, Frank." While she was babbling, I heard the front door slam shut, and I wondered where North was going. Diane's car was the only one in the driveway, so he must have arrived with her. I ignored Diane as I finished packing, and I didn't respond to her. "We need to talk, Frank. You have to let me explain." I walked out the front door without having said a word since walking into the bedroom and telling them not to stop on my account. As I walked to my car, Diane was hollering, "Wait, Frank, don't go. Please talk to me." As I opened my car door, I looked around but saw no sign of Stanton North. Maybe he was hiding somewhere watching and would come back when he saw me drive away. Diane was running down the front walk and almost had her hand on the passenger side door handle when I pulled away from the curb. It is an absolute wonder that I made it to the airport without killing myself or someone else. My mind was definitely not on my driving. How did it happen? Why did it happen? I would have bid all that I had that Diane and I were rock solid. I looked back on our life together and I didn't see anything, not one thing that would ever have led me to believe that what I had just seen was even remotely possible. My God, how could she have done what she did to me when we got up that morning, and then do what I had just seen her doing? Diane and I met when my father received a promotion and had to move the family 500 miles away. The move was a shit as far as I was concerned. I was taken away from the kids I had grown up with and gone to school with, and then dumped into a school where I didn't know a single soul. I was sitting alone at a table in the school cafeteria at lunchtime and feeling sorry for myself when the most beautiful girl I had ever seen came over to the table and sat down with me. She set her tray down and said, "Hi there, new kid." She reached across the table and stuck out her hand and said, "I'm Diane." It took me a second or two before I realized she was offering me her hand to shake. I took it and said, "Hi, Diane, I'm Frank." "Were you from Frank?" she asked, and then we spent the rest of the lunch period getting to know each other. She had joined me at my table because she had known what I was going through because the same thing had happened to her the previous year. By the time the bell rang, we had made a date for her to show me around the town. Within 6 weeks, we were going steady, and like all typical teenagers, we were making out like mad. Being a guy with raging hormones, I naturally tried to get Diane to go all the way, but she wouldn't do it. She was determined to honor her promise to her mother to go to her marriage bed a virgin. Luckily for my sanity, she broke that promise on her 18th birthday. We had some serious discussions after the night she gave me her cherry. I told her that I wanted to marry her, but that I didn't want to get married until I finished college. She wanted to get married right away, and she wasn't happy with me because I wanted to wait. I was telling my mom about it when she surprised the hell out of me. I'd always thought of my mom as being a bit on the prudish side, but she said, "So move in with her and live together until you graduate." How can I do that? The reason I want to wait is so that I can afford it. There is no way I can support a wife and go to school at the same time. You might have to get a part-time job to help out with the groceries, but your college fund has enough in it to let you rent a small place off campus. I thought about it and then brought it up to Diane. We talked it over and decided we would both get part-time jobs and do it. We went looking and found a small apartment that I could afford, and then we went to do the hard part, tell her parents. Her mom was horrified that Diane hadn't kept her promise on holding on to her virginity. She cried and blubbered while Diane's father called me every name in the book and some that he made up on the spot. Then he told Diane that he absolutely forbids it, and furthermore, she was never to see me again. Diane looked at me and asked me to wait in the car. 10 minutes later, she came out carrying 2 suitcases. She never told me what went on when I left the house, but it was 3 years before she ever talked to her parents again, and only then to tell them that they had a grandson. Suddenly, I was a great guy. Their daughter was lucky to have found me and on and on and on, but the damage had already been done, and on my part, one tolerated them, but that was all. Diane eventually forgave them, and they became part of our lives. They were great grandparents to our 3 kids, but like I said, I just tolerated them as the years passed by. The kids grew up and set out on their own, and now at least the kids wouldn't grow up having divorced parents. I got to the airport early, checked in, and then sat down in one of the many airport coffee shops to wait for my flight to be called. I took out North's wallet and checkbook and began going through them. Behind his driver's license, I found a card that said emergency information. It gave his blood type and some other information, but the part that caught my eye was the part where it gave his emergency contact. Arliss North and under relationship. It said wife, and it gave a number where she could be reached. I took out my cell phone and called it. "Hello, Mrs. North?" "Yes, my name is Frank Bellows. I'm sorry to be making this call, but I just found your husband in bed with my wife, and I thought you should know." "You're joking, right?" "No, ma'am, I'm afraid not." "Well, I don't believe you, mister, whoever you are. My Stan would never do a thing like that to me. Tell you what, when he gets home tonight, ask him if he knows Diane Bellows, and then ask him to show you his wallet and checkbook. He won't be able to because I have them." I took them out of his clothes when I found them lying on my living room floor when I went home early. I am at the airport right now waiting to catch a flight to St. Louis. When I get back home, I'd be happy to hand deliver them to you. Are you really serious about this? I'm sorry, but I am. When will you be back? I don't know. I have to go and fill in for someone who is off sick, and I'll be there until he can get back to work. Could you mail me the wallet and checkbook? I suppose so, but I'll let you know this ahead of time. Your husband's wallet has $87 in it, and after what I saw when I walked into my bedroom, I feel a crying need to get drunk and drown my sorrows, and your hubby is gonna foot the bill for it. There will probably be some left, but I have no idea how much. Send it to my office. She gave me the address and I wrote it down, and then she said if you can send it overnight and I'll reimburse you. I can do that. They just called my flight, so I have to go. I said goodbye and disconnected. North got lucky. My original plan was to leave his wallet and credit cards on the counter in the bathroom and hope that whoever found it would go on a spinning spree, but getting in touch with his wife changed all that. Hopefully she would make his life a living hell. My cell had been going off almost from the moment I left the house, and every time I looked it was Diane, so I didn't take the call. It rang again as I was leaving the coffee shop, and I looked expecting it to be another call from Diane, but this time it was from the office. I called back and got Harry. You need to call home, Frank. Diane just called me, and she is frantic because she can't get in touch with you. There is a reason for that, Harry. I'm not taking her calls. When I went home to pack, she was there, and she wasn't alone, and she was doing things she shouldn't have been doing. I will talk with her when I get back. Maybe by then I'll have calmed down enough not to wrap my hands around her throat and squeeze. Make things easy on yourself and tell the receptionist not to take her calls. The first thing I did after seeing to it that the office was running smoothly and that there were no immediate problems was to hit the post office and send Mrs. North her husband's wallet and checkbook. I included the information on where I was staying so she could call if she had any questions. That taken care of, I called the police and found out where Baker was being held and if I could see him. Outside of bruised knuckles and a broken finger, Baker didn't look too bad. He hadn't had a bail hearing yet because the powers that be were waiting on word from the hospital on just how bad Smithers was so they would know what charges to file. I told him about Harry's concerns and asked him for the story. It sounded all too familiar. He had returned home during his lunch hour to pick up something that he had forgotten to take with him in the morning, and he'd walked in on Smithers, who was using his lunch hour to pork Baker's wife. While he was stomping the shit out of Smithers, his wife was on the phone to 911 telling them that her husband had gone crazy and that she feared for her life. The cops showed up, Smithers went to the hospital, and Baker went to jail. My next stop was to the hospital to see Smithers. He had a broken nose, 2 broken ribs, 2 cracked ribs, and they had removed his right testicle. From him I got, "It wasn't my fault. The witch came after me, so of course I tapped her. I'm single and I like sex as much as the next guy. If anybody is at fault here, it is Baker. If he took care of the witch and gave her what she needed, she wouldn't be out looking. He got no sympathy from me. I called Harry and told him the story and said that my recommendation was to transfer Smithers out of the office unless he could find some grounds for firing the guy. And I told him I would take a hard look at things in the office and see if I could find something that he could use. Baker's hearing was the next day and bail was set at $250,000. The only way he could come up with the money was to put his house up as collateral, but his wife refused to sign off on it, so he was going to have to sit in jail until his father and brother could arrange something. The next morning at 9:30, I got a call from Arliss North. She told me that when her husband came home, she asked him if he knew a Diane Bellows, and she said that his face lost all of its color as he said that he didn't know a Diane Bellows. She asked him if he was sure, and he said that he was pretty sure. Then she asked him for his wallet and checkbook, and he patted his pockets and said that he must have left them on his desk at work. Then he changed the subject and asked what was for dinner. He knows he is in deep shit, but he doesn't know how deep it is, and he won't know until tomorrow when I ask him for his wallet and checkbook again. Do you have any idea of how long it was going on? I just know that it was. I walked in on them, and then I left. What does your wife have to say? No idea. I haven't spoken to her since walking into the bedroom and catching them, and I won't be talking to her until I get home. When you do talk to her, call me. I'd like to compare their stories. Will do. I'd like to hear both sides, too. I had a dozen calls a day from Diane, but I didn't take any of them. Harry must have told her. I was in St. Louis, and she must have gotten the office number from information. Dixie, our receptionist, told me that I had a call on line 3, and when I picked it up, it was Diane. What do you want, Diane? We need to talk frankly. I need to explain that what happened isn't what you think. I'm in no mood to talk to you right now. I'm still at the point where I want to strangle you to death and then take my shotgun and go looking for your lover and kill him too. He is not my love. Save it, Diane. Don't call here anymore. We will talk when I get home and not before, and I hung up on her. In mid-afternoon, I got a call from Baker's father telling me that bail had been arranged and that he would be released the next morning. In a way, I was sorry to hear that. As long as Baker was in jail and Smithers was in the hospital, I didn't have to go home and deal with Diane. I had dinner and drinks in the North again that night and made it back to my room at about 7. The phone rang, and since only Harry and Arliss North had the number, I answered it. It was Arliss. We exchanged hellos, and then she filled me in on the latest from her end. When he got home, I asked him again for his wallet and checkbook, and he said that they were gone from his office when he got there. He said that someone on the night cleaning crew must have taken them, and that he would file a complaint when he went into work the next morning. I had to laugh at that. Just how long does he think he can put it off? I don't know how long he thought he could, but I put an end to it. I asked him just how stupid that he thought I was. I told him that he knew he was busted when I asked about your wife and then asked for the wallet and checkbook. There was only one way I could have put the two of them together, and he knew it. Then the dumb shit said that he didn't know what I was talking about. That pissed me off, so I took his wallet and checkbook out of my purse and threw them in his face. Then I told him how I'd gotten them, and that I'd called his office and found out that he worked with the woman he claimed he didn't know. Then I fibbed a bit. I told him that when you got home from St. Louis, you were going to stop by and show me the pictures you took with your cell phone camera before they knew you were there. How did he take that? He finally realized that he was caught, and he broke down, begged forgiveness, and swore that it was the only time that he had ever been unfaithful. He said he couldn't help it, that your wife had chased him for months, and that it was hard to ignore a beautiful woman who was hot for your body. Too bad I wasn't thinking a little more clearly when I walked in on them. My cell phone does have a camera. I just never thought to use it. Do you believe his story? That she chased after him? It could be true. She wouldn't be the first. Was it only the one time with her? That could be true too, but he was lying through his teeth when he said that it was the only time he ever cheated. I know of at least 3 times that he has strayed. Well, that's not quite true. 3 times I've had people tell me that he ran around on me when I was out of town visiting relatives. I've never confronted him on them because I really didn't want to know if it was true. You said that a saying that Diane chased him could be true, and that she wouldn't have been the first. Why did you say that? Stan is rather well endowed, and some women, when they hear that, want to check it out. A week ago, I would have said Diane would never do anything like that, but that was before I walked in on her and your husband. I've got to go. But if I learn anything else, I'll give you a call. Don't forget, I'm one of her here side when you get home, and talk with her. I won't at 11. The next morning, Ray Baker called me to let me know he was out of jail on bail. He was going to have to take the rest of the day and the next day to take care of personal business. His wife had taken out a restraining order on him, and he needed to find a place to stay and make arrangements with the court to get into his house to get his personal things. He said that he would be in on Thursday. I called Harry and brought him up to date, and then I told him that in checking into things at the office, I had found that Smithers had been fudging his expense reports, and that could possibly be grounds for letting him go. I told him I would probably fly home Thursday evening and that I was going to need to take Friday off to handle my personal affairs, and I would see him Monday morning. I managed to get through the next 2 days without incident, and on Thursday morning, Ray was back at work. I brought him up to date on what was going on in the office, and then because I was going through something similar, I asked him how things were going on the home front. The restraining order only keeps me 500 feet away from her. I can access the house whenever I want as long as she isn't there. If she is there and won't leave when I want to go, and I have to get someone from the court to go in with me, I just waited down the street until she went to work, and then me and my brother went in and got everything that I wanted. I have no need to go back. I don't know what the stupid witch is thinking. She got the order, but that was all. She didn't touch the bank accounts. I cleaned them out yesterday. I thought that this was a no-fault state and that everything had to be split 50-50. In a divorce that would be true, but I'm not talking divorce, I'm just walking away. If she wants a divorce, she can pay for it, and when she files, she will be entitled to 50% of our assets at the time she files, and that will be zip. We took out a second on the house to finish the basement and make it into a recreation room, so there is no equity in the house, and the money I took out of the bank will be long gone. I can claim that I needed it all to set me up in a new place when she barred me from the house. That reminds me, I need to call Harry and get my insurance and all of that other crap changed. She tells you why she did it. I haven't spoken to the witch since the cops hauled me away, and I have no intention of talking to her. It doesn't matter why she did it. It only matters that she did. I decided to get a good night's sleep before going home and having to talk to Diane, so I called the airline and made reservations for the morning flight. I was rested when I got up, and I had a good breakfast before catching the airport shuttle, and I was home in Denver by 11. I hit the bank, cleaned out the savings, cashed in 5 of the 9 certificates of deposit in the deposit box, and put all the money in the checking account. Diane was at work when I got home, so I would be alone until 6. I got on the phone, got payoff balances for all of our credit cards, and then canceled all but 5 of them. I kept the American Express card that I use primarily for business expenses and 2 of the other cards in my name and put 2 in Diane's name. I went back to the bank and arranged wire transfers to pay off the cards using the money in the checking account. That done, I took half of the money left in checking and opened a checking account in my name only. I arranged for another safe deposit box in my name only and put 2 of the remaining 4 CDs into it and then went back home. When the kids had grown and moved out, I had converted one of their bedrooms into a home office and den, and the other 2 were kept as spare rooms for when the kids came home to visit. I picked the spare bedroom next to the den and moved all of my things into it. I was all moved in and set up when Diane came home. I heard Diane come in and call for me. Frank? Frank? Where are you? I ignored her as I heard her walking through the house looking for me. She finally came upstairs, and I had my back to the door when she came in. Frank? I ignored her. Frank? Please, Frank, we need to talk. I turned to face her. Where is it written that I have to talk to an unfaithful scum-sucker? She winced when I said that, and then I said, however, we do need to talk about finances. Finance? Why? Because your actions have made changes necessary. Go on downstairs and take a seat at the kitchen table, and I'll be down in a minute. She left, and I sorted through the papers I had been working on, picked up the ones I needed, and then followed Diane down to the kitchen and took a seat across from her. While I was gone, I had a lot of time to think about what I should do, and in the end, I decided to do nothing. I saw relief on her face when I said that, but it faded when I said, by nothing I mean that I will be having little or nothing to do with you. I can't see wasting money on divorce attorneys, especially since at my age, I don't see another marriage in my future, so I'm not going to need single status. If you want a divorce, you can go for it and pay for it. For now, though, there are some changes. I explained all that I had done with the credit cards, the savings, the CDS, and the checking account. You can have the original deposit box, but I would recommend that you open your own checking and savings accounts, and we will leave the old joint account in place and call it the household account. With me so far? But why do you do it? You know damned well why, Diane. Okay, now the household account will be used for household expenses. I slid a piece of paper across the table to her. That is a list of what it takes to run the house. House payment, electric bill, phone, gas, water, and sewage, taxes, and insurance. What we are from now on is roommates. You will need to deposit half of the amount on that paper into the household account every month from now on. We will share the house with the exception of 2 rooms. You will have the master bedroom as your room, and Carol's old room will be my bedroom. Why are you moving into Carol's room? You need to be in the master bedroom with me. After what I saw taking place in that room, there is no way I'm going to stay in that room, sleep on that bed, or have anything to do with the woman I saw doing what she was doing on that bed. That's what we need to talk about, Frank. What you saw isn't what you think. Of course it was what I thought it was. It was you drilling another man in our house and on our bed. Okay, Frank, but what you need to understand is that is all that it was. Just sex. There was no love or affection involved. It was just me satisfying my curiosity. I love you, Frank. I always have, and I always will. What I felt for Stan was just a little bit of lust, and that's all. It was a one-time thing to satisfy my curiosity, and if you had not come home, you would never have known, and it would have never happened again. But that is the problem, Diane. I did come home and I do know, and because I know it changes everything. You cheated on me, and that means that you can't be trusted. If you can't be trusted, that means that everything you say has to be weighed and looked at to try and determine if it is the truth or a lie. You say you love me? Can you love me and still betray me? Can you love me and still disrespect me by bringing another man into my house and then screwing him on my bed? The same bed you would have slept on with me that night? How much love and respect would you be showing me by giving me that man's leaves if I would have made love to you that night? No, Diane, you can no longer be trusted. You say it was a one-time thing and would have never happened again. Truth or lie? I only have your word for it that it is true, but you can't be trusted. It could just as easily be the 10th time, and you could have already set up a time to do it again. But, and this is the part that counts, even if it is the truth, you still stabbed me in the back. You broke the promise that you made to me when we took our vows. And for what, to satisfy some curiosity of yours? Just what the hell were you so curious about that you were willing to risk your marriage to satisfy it? She looked away from me when she said the size of his tool. You have got to be shitting me, the size of his tool. Why in the hell were you curious about the size? Some of the girls in the office had gone out with him, and they raved about how big it was and how filling it was. I listened to all the stories they told, but I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to them until he started hitting on me. Even then, it was a while before I started thinking about it. You were saying that he tried to seduce you? I guess he was, but I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it at first. But I like the attention, and what woman doesn't like to feel that she is attractive? At my age, it was a hell of a boost to my self-esteem to have a man 10 years younger than me paying attention to me. I had lunch with him a couple of times and danced with him a couple of times when everyone in the office would stop for drinks. It was dancing with him that started me thinking of the stories I'd heard about him. I felt him push against me a time or two, and he did seem rather large. The more I thought about the stories, the more curious I got. I was a virgin when I met you, and you are the only man I've ever known sexually. I got to wondering what another man would be like, especially a man reputed to be as big as Stan. He kept working on me, and I kept wondering, and I finally let my curiosity get the best of me. You say all the other girls talked about Stan's size and abilities in bed? How many other girls? 7 of them. Stan had sex with 7 of them? They said he did. 7 of them in your office alone. That would seem to show that Stan was pretty promiscuous. Did you ever stop to think that a guy who was screwing anything that moved might pick up a disease or two somewhere along the line? Oh, come on, Frank. If that were the case, he would have given it to the girls he made love to, and you can believe that if he did, it would be broadcast all over the office in minutes. You can have it and not know it, Diane. In some cases, you can have it for months before you show signs. If I were you, I'd go and get myself tested. The important thing, Frank, is that Stan meant nothing to me. There was no love involved, and I can't say that there was even much love. That's not what it sounded like when I walked into the room. You know I like sex, Frank, and you know how vocal I get when I make love to you. So I made some noise. It was because I was in the middle of having sex and not because I had any special feelings for Stan. It was a mistake, Frank. A major mistake, and I'm sorry as hell that I slipped up, and I can promise you that it will never happen again. I love you, Frank, and you know that I do. You can't throw away 25 good years because of one mistake. I'm not throwing anything away, Diane. You were the one who threw it away when you brought another man into my house and took him on my bed. I got up and left the kitchen and went back upstairs to the den and lost myself in some paperwork. I'm a fairly light sleeper, and that night about an hour after I went to bed, the noise of the bedroom door opening woke me up. Diane quietly moved into the room and softly closed the door behind her. I slept nude, and it was summer, so I was lying on top of the covers. Diane bent over me and tried to kiss me. She had always been able to turn me to jelly when she played with me, and it looked like she planned to do it again in an attempt to get back into my good graces. She was totally surprised when I pushed her away. Leave me alone, Diane. I am not in the least bit interested in North's leftovers. She got off the bed and left the room crying. Maybe 20 minutes later, I fell asleep, and I wasn't bothered the rest of the night. Diane was in the kitchen making coffee when I came down from taking my morning shower and getting ready to go to work. Her good morning, Frank, was met with a noncommittal grunt. I ignored her until the coffee was ready and then filled my travel mug and left for work. I waited until 10 before calling Arliss North, and then I filled her in on what I'd found out. 7 other girls? That is what she said. Apparently your husband was the office Romeo. Do you believe her story? Before I walked in on her and your husband, I would have believed her if she had told me that the sun was now rising in the west. But after? I don't know. It could be true, or it could be that she is just trying to put a better light on what she did by making me think that it really meant nothing. I mean, how do you know? When she got caught, trust went out the window. Everything she says now has to be seen as self-serving. Have you decided what you're going to do? The marriage is dead, but if there is a divorce, she will have to be the one to go for it. My plan right now is to simply cohabit. We will coexist as roommates, but that is all. I can't see ruining myself financially just because she couldn't keep her panties on. How about you? Got a plan yet? I'm still thinking about it. Keep in touch, Frank. We'll do our less. Good luck. For the next week, I made sure that I was up and gone before Diane woke up, and I found things to do that kept me from going home until late. Diane was usually up waiting for me, but I ignored her. The next weekend, she tried to slip into my bed again, but I told her to get away from me and leave me alone. Damn it, Frank, don't do this to me. I love you, Frank, and I want you. I don't want you, Diane. You are damaged goods. My God, Frank. It was only once. I haven't even talked to him since he ran out of the house. It was a one-time slip in judgment, Frank. Please give me a chance. I know it was wrong, and I'm sorry. I swear to God that it will never happen again. The problem, Diane, is that I don't know that it was only once. He may have been your third or fourth lover or your 10th. You may still be doing him on your lunch hours in a motel. When I caught you with him, you lost all my trust, Diane, and there is no way I will ever trust you to tell me the truth ever again. Please, Frank, there has to be some way to put us back together. I'll do anything, Frank, anything at all. Sorry, Diane, but there is no chance of our getting back together because I don't want to put us back together. The sight of you with your legs wrapped around North and the sound of your voice as you begged him to screw you hard or kill all the feelings I had for you. Look on the bright side. You are free to indulge in satisfying your curiosity whenever you want now, just not here in this house. This house is neutral territory. You take your men elsewhere and I won't bring my women here. Your women. I have no intention of going without a sex life. I'm not a bad-looking guy and I've had chances up the kazoo to play around, but I never did because I promised during our wedding ceremony that I'd be faithful to you. You made the same vows, but you broke them. When you broke your vows, you released me from mine. At least I won't be bringing mine in here where you can see it. She looked at me and I could tell what she was thinking. She was thinking that sharing the house and being around each other would give her a chance to work her way back into my life, and that is just what I wanted her to think. I decided to give her a load to carry. The only reason I'm doing this share the house thing is that I don't want to make the lawyers rich by going through a divorce, and I don't want to give up what I have here at the house to live in an apartment. I wouldn't have a garage to work in, a basement workshop, and I wouldn't have a patio where I can sit and enjoy a drink as I watch the sunset. You have two choices, Diane. Live with the new status quo or not. If you chose not, then you can either move out or take over the house payments and expenses and I'll move out. You say that you really do love me, so here is your chance to prove it. You can accept home sharing, or you can take the house and cost me my garage, my workshop, and my patio just like you cost me my wife. Your choice. There is no chance. I don't see how there could be, Diane. She was silent for a few moments, and then she opened her mouth and drove the final nail into her coffin. What are you going to do with the pictures, Frank? The pictures? The ones you took with your cell phone camera. She hadn't even talked to North since he ran out of the house. Then how did she know about the cell phone pictures? That was a story made up by Arliss and fed to her husband a good 5 days after I'd caught Diane and North in our bedroom. No, indeed. I could not trust anything Diane told me ever again. I could not physically hurt her, and kicking her out of the house would cost me more than it would punish her. But being around me all the time while I ignored her would put her through a mental hell, and that was the best I could hope for. I did not doubt that she loved me, and I knew she would hang in there on the remote chance that she might eventually work her way back into my good graces. It wasn't going to happen. I was not kidding when I said that seeing her with North had killed all my feelings for her. But the longer she held on hoping, the longer my revenge would last. My revenge against Diane didn't take place, so I turned my attention to Stanton North. The private detective's report backed up what I had suspected. Getting caught by me and his wife finding out that he was a cheating a hole had not slowed him down a single bit. He was laying pipe to 5 women besides his wife. In the 3 weeks I'd had the piss on him, he hadn't done a thing with Diane, but he was nailing 2 of her co-workers. One of them, Mary Ellen Bingham, had a husband that worked the afternoon shift, and every Tuesday and Thursday after work North would pay Mary Ellen a visit at her home on Sunflower Way. He stayed 2 hours and then left. I checked my watch and saw that if he kept to his schedule, he would be out of the house in 10 minutes. I was parked 1 block away and 1 block over. I got out of my car and made my way over to the Bingham residence, went around behind the garage, and when I got there, I slipped on the latex gloves and put on a ski mask. Mary Ellen had a 3-car garage, and when North visited, he pulled into the garage and parked and closed the garage door so the neighbors wouldn't get to talking about Mary Ellen's visitor. Wouldn't want the word to get back to Mary Ellen's hubby now, would we? I used a small pry bar to force the lock on the back door to the garage, and I was waiting when the connecting door to the house opened and North came out. A naked Mary Ellen stood in the doorway and watched North walk to his car. 50,000 volts from the taser had him writhing on the garage floor, and before Mary Ellen could even scream, I said in what I hoped was a disguised voice, "Scream or call the cops, and your hubby will find out what has been going on. Best you go back in the house and pretend that nothing is going on out here. I won't kill him, but you can be sure that another husband that he has stabbed in the back is getting even." She jumped backwards and slammed the door. Mary Ellen knew me from all the company picnics and Christmas parties that Diane had taken me to, but I was counting on the ski mask and the disguised voice to keep her from knowing who was screwing over her sex buddy. I couldn't count on her not calling the police, so I had to hurry. I pulled North's pants off of him, and believe me when I tell you that pulling pants off of a guy in convulsions isn't easy. Once I had his pants off, I took my revenge. Proud of his package, was he? Well, his package was going to pay. I took the fully charged cattle prod and touched it to his package and balls as many times as I could until it was fully discharged. I kicked him twice in the ribs for the hell of it, and then I took his wallet and checkbook and got the hell out of there. I heard no sirens, so maybe Mary Ellen didn't call the cops. As I drove away, I thought about what I had just done. I had no idea how much damage, if any, that the cattle prod would cause and whether or not there would be any lasting effects, but I can honestly say that I enjoyed every one of North's screams when a cattle prod charge flashed through his package and balls. I never did hear how Mary Ellen made out on the deal. Was she able to get North out of there and keep her husband in the dark, or did she have to call for medical attention for North and have to explain an ambulance at the house to her hubby? Still wearing the latex gloves, I put the wallet and checkbook in a package I had already prepared and sent it to Arliss at her office. There was no note enclosed, and I would deny I knew anything about it, but when her hubby came home hurting and then his wallet showed up in the mail, she would think she knew who had done it. 3 weeks after my little party with North, I got a phone call from Arliss. "You busy for lunch?" "I haven't made any plans." "Why?" "I think it is time for us to have a face-to-face." "How about noon at the Lido? I'll be the redhead anxiously checking out every man who walks in to see if I can figure out which one is you." "Noon it is." I didn't see her anxiously checking faces, but she was easy to spot since she was the only redhead in the place sitting alone. North was a flaming idiot to be screwing around on her. She was drop-dead gorgeous. I walked up to her table. "Mrs. North?" "No, Frank, it is Arliss." "You haven't called me Mrs. Alice North since our first phone conversation." I took a seat across from her and said, "Might I ask what prompted you to ask me to lunch?" "I just wanted a good look at the man who keeps screwing up my life." "I'm screwing up your life. How am I doing that?" "First, you made me pull my head out of the sand and face up to what I was fairly sure he was doing, but hoped he wasn't. Then, after I let him talk me into giving him one more chance, you took away the best thing that he had going for him." "I don't understand." "Sure you do. Stan is a good provider and a pretty decent father to our kids, but the best thing that he had going for him was that he was great in bed." Notice that I said was, and I took it away. How did I do that? Don't play the innocent with me, Frank. We both know who did a number on Stan's private parts. I don't have a clue as to what you were talking about. Sure you don't. Anyway, ever since you did whatever it was that you did to him, he has not been able to get it up, and don't give me any of that crap about not knowing what I'm talking about. Wallets in the mail are kind of your trademark. Just then the waitress walked up to take our order. As Arliss ordered a salad and iced tea, I gave her a good once-over. Yes, indeed. Her husband was an idiot not to have stayed home. As well as being gorgeous, Arliss was pretty sharp, as I quickly found out. Well, she asked. Well, what? Do I pass? What are you talking about now? What? I wasn't supposed to notice you checking me out just now. I was caught and I knew it, so I just gave her a goofy smile and said, who? Me. Yes, you, and I hope you like what you see, because the real reason for this little get-together is to offer it to you. I don't know what the look on my face was saying to her, but she went on. I'm a very sexual person with a very high sex drive, and since you have taken my play toy away from me, I feel that it is only fair that you take over his duties. That caught me flat-footed, and I didn't know what to say. She smiled at me and said, I'll bet you weren't expecting that one, were you? To be honest, it never entered my mind. Well, Frank, here is the way I see it. You deprived me of my bed partner, so it is only fair that you take his place in second. What can be a more fitting way to get back at your wife and my husband? I don't know, Arliss. The package is outstanding, but I don't know that it is a good idea. The situation that I'm in right now could be upset if I give Diane grounds to sue for divorce. You aren't divorcing her? I explained what I was doing and she laughed. You are evil, aren't you? But not to worry. I don't intend to broadcast it. If Stan never gets the use of his equipment back, I'll divorce him, and I don't want him to have grounds to countersue either. Are you serious about this, your baka? And that is how my affair with Arliss North started. It has been going on for over a year now, and it doesn't show any sign of ending anytime soon. Her husband still hasn't been able to get an erection. The doctors say there is no physical reason for him not to be able to perform, so his problem is probably mental. Arliss says she will give him until the end of the year, and then if he still can't get it up, he will be history. As far as I know, Diane hasn't been seeing anyone, but she is well aware that I'm seeing someone, but she has no idea who. The knowledge that I am having sex with another woman is killing her, but she keeps hanging on hoping for a miracle. That is, having sex with another woman is killing her, but she keeps hanging on hoping for a miracle that is never going to come. I couldn't ask for better revenge.